What's up, everybody? Welcome to We Have Cool Friends, the cool show where we interview our cool friends about the cool things they're doing. I'm Greg Miller, and this is my cool friend, Ryan McCaffrey.
Hey, Greg.
Hey, Ryan.
Good to
How are
see
you?
My friend? It's been too long.
It has been too long. And this is, as we were saying beforehand, a show that's been pushed around, put off. A pandemic tried to kill it, but we're back, and it's going to happen.
We're here. You're in your house. I'm in my house. We can't be together hugging it out, but we do what we can.
Yeah, and you have all the cool lights. That's the one thing I'm going to say about all the IGN folks I've seen on their shows. Y'all got cool lights floating around there, you know?
We're taking this seriously. I mean, we anticipate being home for a while. Our corporate management has said, hey, we're a tech company. We don't need to rush anybody back to the offices before it's super safe to do so. So, yeah, we've got a fancy new camera because I was on a 5-year-old laptop webcam. And then, we got some lights. And I had a nice key light for my face, but Porch Pirates stole it from me last week before I could get out to it. So, welcome to San Francisco.
Yeah, I know, right? Well, luckily that's happening everywhere. I see that all the time on the old Reddits. I see people getting their packages stolen and chasing them through the streets. Yeah, you can't get away from it. So, Ryan.
Yes, sir.
What cool thing is happening in your life right now?
Well, I mean, not just to be serious for a minute. I mean, just that my family and I are in good health, and my wife and I are still able to totally do our jobs and work and have pay and benefits. It's right. This is a crazy uncertain time. So, I mean, that's as much as this kind of feels just like Groundhog Day, where it's every day is the same.
Yeah.
We've got our health and we get to keep a roof over our heads. So, I mean, that is the coolest thing I could possibly ask for right now. The second coolest thing, which I would love, but I can't have right now, is a haircut. It's getting out of control. I'm almost going 80s mullet in the back here, not by choice.
Oh, no, of course not. Now, are you going to cross the line and let your wife cut it?
I don't know, man. I mean, I've watched my barber do it a million times, of course, but I'm one of the few gifts God gave me because there's this face, right? So I'm stuck with that. But I do have, I'm lucky to have a thick, full head of hair. So I don't think it's a thing where you could just kind of trim it and in an amateur way and be done. I'm worried it would go horribly wrong. So
that's why, just having basic guy haircut. Jen was able to cut it on the Kind of Funny podcast a couple weeks. And now I'm going to have another one from her soon enough because I can already feel it getting too long. And the front part, super, super long, which is how I wanted it because then I can do whatever I want with it. But she did a great job with it. I was prepared for it to look ridiculous, and she nailed it. She crushed it. So just believe in your wife. You never know.
Oh, yeah. But to answer your question, I'd say my cool thing, it's funny. A lot of people at IGN, and I think a lot of people that do what we do, we're lucky to do this sort of creative fueled field. We have other creative passions, and for me, I'm actually right at this weekend is going to be the 250th episode of my weekly Tesla podcast.
That's ridiculous.
Which is kind of, in hindsight, stupidly called Ride the Lightning, because there's no SEO. Metallica owns the SEO on that. I don't. It was named partially in tribute to Metallica, in addition to you're literally riding on an electric car, Lightning, the whole thing. But I should have just called it something super basic and SEO friendly.
The unofficial Tesla podcast.
I've never missed a week. I take a lot of pride in that because I think you know better than anybody, Greg. You've built a business on this. You have to create the routine and expectation for your audience. If they don't know when the content is coming, there's 10,000 other shows they could go watch or listen to. So you're not going to hold them. So I've made it a point of pride for myself where this thing that I just do on the side, it comes out every Sunday, 9 a.m. Eastern, 6 a.m. Pacific. Doesn't matter if I'm on vacation. I find a way to get it done. And episode 250 is this weekend, which is just crazy to me.
I want to talk about that, and I wasn't sure when we get to because I knew we would, but here we are. I don't even want to say what did you think about when you started it because you came to me. I remember going we went and got pizza, and you were like, "I'm going to try this thing." You guys, we were already on Patreon, we were already doing stuff, and you had questions about it. You're going to start this Tesla podcast. Did you imagine it going this long? What was the plan for it? I mean, because I remember when we first started talking and I was like, oh, you should do a Patreon, of course. And it was I was like, it doesn't matter how much money you get, right? It's the audience you're building. It's not about the dollars. It's about the audience.
No,
if you have 5 people who pay for you, why not?
Yeah, I mean, the original. So I originally started it. My plan was, all right, I'm just gonna do this because my wife's sick of hearing me talk about this was before I owned
You
one
didn't even
because
have it, right?
no,
Yeah.
I didn't have it at all. I got mine almost 2 years ago now, and the podcast has been going for 5. But I'd always just loved them. So the quick Cliff's Notes version of this is, I mean, I've been into cars since I was the littlest of kids. My dad used to bring home what felt like every day, but in reality it was probably every week or two. He'd bring me home like a Matchbox or Hot Wheels car. He'd stop at the store on his way home from
Sure.
work, and like every car as a kid, I'd be sitting in the back seat. I could identify every car. Oh, that's a Ford Mustang. That's a this. That's a that.
Yeah.
And I just loved cars. I have no explanation for it. There was no aha moment. And so always been into cars. As some of your audience who already are aware of me might know, I was lucky. My first dream car was the DeLorean, the car
Oh
from
yeah.
Back to the Future, because
Oh my
I
God.
saw Back to the Future when I was 5 years old, because that's how old I am, and and I was just like, this, that was it. That was the car for me. That was my holy grail. And I was lucky enough to, not to get into the whole story now, unless you want to, but
This is your show,
uh,
man. We're here to talk about you. Just let the
well,
conversation go.
just that.
People just show up, they get a 15-minute podcast about what's going on with Ryan McCaffrey. They're here for the whole thing.
But no, I was lucky enough. I bought one when I was 18, turning 19, because I just caught it. The values on them were still super low. They've come up in the years since. And
Yeah.
anyway, I was lucky enough to have one for a long, long time. That's why my Twitter handle is DMC_Ryan.
Mhm.
But so it's just, the point is, in the case of the Tesla stuff, I've always loved cars. And then along comes Tesla, who they were founded in 2003. I didn't become aware of them until probably a lot of people, until they actually made a car, which was the original Tesla Roadster, this little 2-seat electric sports car built off of the Lotus Elise platform, but obviously all electric powered. And I don't remember exactly how I became aware of them, but at some point they showed up on something online or whatever and found out, oh, these guys are in the Bay Area. What? There's a car company here and they're making this electric sports car. That's cool. And then the more I looked into it, the more there were these bizarre, obviously totally coincidental parallels between DeLorean, which I love the car and love the story. John DeLorean was this iconoclastic guy who really kind of wanted to do things different and better than the established industry. And Elon Musk is largely the same way. Let's build a safer car, zero emissions, high performance, this whole thing. And at one point, I got to drive the original Tesla Roadster. I'd actually set up a DeLorean Club event, our Northern California DeLorean Club. Tesla, like, I contacted them, and like, if I'd ever contacted a Ferrari dealership, they'd have hung up the phone.
Whatever, kid. Click.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like, goodbye. But Tesla, particularly in the earlier days, that had this startup spirit of like, yeah, we need people to, when you drive it, you get it. Like, so it's like, come on down. And anyway, we had this huge turnout. All these DeLoreans turned up at Tesla's one and only dealership location, which is down in Menlo Park here, near Palo Alto and Silicon Valley. And afterwards, they gave us like a tour of the building and stuff, and it was really cool. And the next day, I just wrote them a thank you note and just said, "Boy, that was so great. You guys were so hospitable. Thank you so much." And one of the guys wrote back and said, "Do you want to come back and take a test drive of this $110,000 car?" I'd
You
never
had no
driven.
chance of buying.
Yeah, I'd never driven anything close to that expensive. So of course, I mean, yes, I mean, that sounds great. I'd already become interested in what was going on. And so I came back and drove it. And that's really, you'll hear that if you talk to a lot of Tesla owners, they'll say like, yeah, as soon as you, like, you can read all about it, you can watch videos, but as soon as you drive it, typically that's usually the aha moment. Like, you just drive it and you just understand like, oh, okay, wow, this is like the instant torque and the regenerative braking where you don't even really need to press the brake pedal much, and the linear, it feels like a roller coaster in those cars.
Sure.
And so from that moment, this was 2009, I just started to become obsessed with Tesla. And I say that in both the healthy and unhealthy way. Like, it was across the board. And so this was before they'd even made the Model S, their first proper car that they built at the Tesla factory here in the Bay Area. So I was just following this from more or less day one. And I just kept tracking it and knew that their plan was the sedan and then the cheaper sedan, which would become the Model 3. And I'm like, okay, well, that's what I'll go for, the one I can afford. Yeah. And I just, at some point, I just decided, well, you know what? I love podcasting. I'd been doing it for years at both Official Xbox Magazine and then IGN. It scratches the radio itch that I never really got to scratch professionally. And so I said, I'll bet there's a million Tesla podcasts. I'll start one. But I'm at dinner with my wife thinking about like, okay, well, how would I structure it? Well, I'd want to structure it like a radio show. And there could be this segment and that segment. And I pull out my phone and I go on to iTunes, to Apple Podcasts, and I search for Tesla. Nothing comes up. Nothing. I'm like, this can't be right. There have to be a million Tesla There's a million podcasts about anything anyone's interested in. But no one had done one. So it's like, well, this makes it even more appealing.
Sure.
And so I just started, I just put it out there and I knew from the beginning I wanted to commit to it again every week at the same time every week. And I thought, okay, well, let me spend the first year trying to build an audience, because for me, you had built an audience at IGN.
Totally.
So that when you launched Kinda Funny.
Oh, I cheated big time.
Yeah, well, you kind of, yeah, but you had done it.
Yeah.
For me, I hadn't done it. So let me put this out there for a year, try and grow an audience. Because for me, I thought, well, it wouldn't be fair to ask people for money right out of the gate when I haven't shown them that I'm A, committed to it, and B, what it is. So let me do this for a year, and then I'll launch a Patreon. And now I'm finally coming around to your question, Greg. I took the long way around.
This is why you and I get along. You ask one question in a podcast, you sit back. Greg or Ryan will talk for 15 minutes. Nobody cares.
It's easy. And so and the original goal was, okay, if I can build an audience after a year, I think I could maybe get X amount of money per month which could make my car payment for the Tesla the affordable Tesla that I'm planning to buy when it comes out. So that was kind of the original goal, was like, it'd be great if it could make my car payment. And so that was kind of where and I came to you for advice because you had done it. You had made this template that works, and my Patreon template resembles yours, at least. Granted, I confess I haven't looked at yours lately, but it resembles yours. Yeah, it resembles yours circa 2016, I guess.
Probably.
But yeah, it's been great. Like, it's grown into, I've carved out my little grain of sand on the Tesla beach, and I just do my thing every week. And it's incredibly, like, my IGN work, I feel to this day, I wake up, I'm very grateful to get to do what I do. I've been doing video game journalism, if you want to call it. I'm not a big fan of that term, but I've been doing this for 17 and a half years.
Jeez, man.
So I'm very lucky that I get to wake up and do this. But there's a difference with the Tesla stuff. It's just me. Like, the only thing I've ever really had help on per se is my wife made the logo. That's really it. Like, for better or for worse, everything else starts and stops with me. And so when it starts to grow and have some success, and I get Elon Musk on the podcast, like, it's so gratifying that just like I made it. I made that happen. I built that. And it's been really creatively rewarding that way, and just having people respond to it in a positive way. And just, it's because the whole point of what I'm doing with it is I want it to be an hour a week where I'm just sharing this genuine, real enthusiasm for these cars and this company that's trying to change the way transportation works. It really comes from a genuine place of enthusiasm. And I think when people respond to it and share in that, and I get the emails and the tweets and the phone calls about it, it's really just incredibly gratifying that, like, hey, wow, somebody actually cares about this and is interested in it. So it's been a hell of a ride for sure.
What does it look like now in 2020 in terms of Tesla podcasts? If I open up Apple Podcasts, is there just a million of them?
There are plenty now. Yeah, there are a
Yeah.
number of them. There have been a lot that have come and gone,
Mhm.
and I
Mhm.
don't say that dismissively, but the reality is like, I don't begrudge, and everybody goes into it with their different goals. I'm
Of
sure.
course.
Like, I knew going in that it probably wasn't going to be successful enough to have me quit my day job anytime
Yeah.
soon, and it hasn't done that, and that's fine. Like, I knew I would carve out a certain amount of time, but I wasn't going to be doing any, like, I had a ceiling on what I was willing to do. Like, I'll hear feedback from great people who are like, they like me and they go, man, you should do video. I'd love to see you get on YouTube. And it's like, well, I appreciate that, but that would require a whole nother time commitment,
Mhm.
just this whole other level that, like, I still want to have. I mean, I have an obligation to IGN, like that's who pays the bills
Of
and puts
course.
the roof over my head.
Yeah.
And I have an obligation and a desire, of course, to actually have free time and be with my family too.
Yep.
So it's I the Tesla stuff has a set amount of space that it can take up in my life, and I fill that space every week with effort and enthusiasm, and I'm just not willing to go past that.
I mean,
uh,
what you're talking about there is a healthy work-life balance, which
I
so
hope
many
so.
content creators, myself included, struggle with. And I think that that's why it's important and powerful. And I think I know, when we've had like Khalif on the show and just talked to other content creators out there, this is something everyone struggles with, and it's so awesome to see you doing it, because I think usually when you talk about somebody doing their passion project podcast in our space, it's them doing the video game passion project podcast and then working a 9 to 5 that isn't that, but hoping yada yada yada. So for
Right.
you to be doing the video game thing as the full-time job, coming home, being a husband, being a father, and doing this, I think so many people see that. And I think, again, what you're talking about is the perfect example of it, of you're committed and this is what it is and this is how you're going to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm doing my best. I'm trying. But then to come back to your question of like, yeah, there are a lot of other Tesla podcasts now, and I'm sure other people are in it for different reasons. But yeah, they've come and gone because, again, I will say I'm the longest running one, believe it or not, and the longest continuously running one. There have been others that have sprouted up and come and gone, and so yeah, you could dislike, you could say, Ryan, your Tesla podcast is horrible, I hate it, here's why, reasons 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
And I
But
do every week in the comments.
I know, I
Yeah.
see you there, and I delete it every single week for YouTube. But you just, the one thing that helps me, like, I can rest easy at night, is you can't fault my effort. Like, the
For
effort
sure.
is there. It's there every week, and I can take a lot of pride in that, whether or not you actually like it or not.
So to go back, you didn't have the car for the first 2 years of the podcast.
Yeah.
How was that difficult? Like, you know what I mean?
No,
It's hard to imagine doing the PS I Love You and not having a PS4, right? And
right.
granted, apples and oranges very much, but you know what I mean?
If the PlayStation 4 cost, $40,000, that would be
Oh,
a
so it's a
different.
PS3. Got it.
Yeah, it's a
Okay. That wasn't
PS3.
hard at all. I did
Get
Beyond on a PS3 for a long time.
a second job, Greg. Sony demands it.
You'll get me to it.
Yeah, it was. I mean, the thing is, I was just always very upfront about it. I would say, "Hey, I don't have one yet. I'm saving up for the Model 3. I'm waiting." Which it turned out, like, most of my audience was in the same boat, because before the Model 3, the Model S and the X were the two cars that Tesla made, and those were, realistically, they were $80,000 to $100,000 cars on average. And so, that's rarefied air. Not a lot of people are
Sure.
spending that on cars. So it sort of, I think a lot of people could relate to me in that way. And it also sort of showed, like, wow, this guy, he really does care that he's doing a Tesla podcast every week, and he doesn't even have one. So yeah, I describe myself frequently during that time as the kid with his face pressed up against the glass, wishing he were inside at the party. And so, when I finally got my car, I actually did this whole bonus episode that I put out to everybody. Just I had an audio recorder on, like, recording myself at my delivery, and because I'll tell you, that moment meant a lot to me, Greg,
Oh
because
my God.
I'd worked. I know it may sound silly, and I know in this time when there are way more important things
Of course.
to worry about, but I had, this was a thing I'd never spent this much money on anything before. And I had worked and planned and saved and hoped for the. I mean, this was a dream of mine.
Totally.
Silly as it may sound, and I recognize that.
If
But
anybody,
it meant a lot to me, and it was a big day for me.
If anybody was listening to that and thought that was silly, like, get out of here. Like, that's I 100% understand what you're talking about, and I think honestly, like, your excitement, enthusiasm, and pure joy with it reminds me, and not that I'm juvenilizing this at all, so much of being a kid or a teen and building up to the PS2. And I remember when that was the most money I'd ever spent. And I did read the magazine. I tell a story of at my stupid part-time job, going next door during my lunch break and buying DVDs and reading them because I didn't have a DVD player, but I just wanted to read the back of the box. Like, no, that's not stupid at all. That's awesome. That's enthusiasm. That's fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, it was like, I mean, I can, in my own life, I had sort of an interesting sort of mile marker on the road for this sorry to use a bad mixed car pun, whatever that was. But like, you know, I told you I'd been lucky enough to buy my dream car, a DeLorean, when I was 18, turning 19. And the reason was, so I had done well in school and gotten a full scholarship. So I to the in-state school, Sun Devils, what's up? But so I was able to, and I convinced I don't know what sort of like sorcery I put on my parents. I got them to co-sign a loan for me to buy what was then an 18-year-old car that wasn't made anymore. But the DeLorean was, at that time, did not cost a lot of money in the grand scheme of things. So it was nuts to buy one, but not necessarily financially nuts. It was nuts for lots of other reasons. But even then, like, that was a big day too, which I'll never forget. But it was very different with I guess not quite 20, almost 20-year difference between the DeLorean and the Tesla. But because it's just like it took a lot more hard work and time and effort, and just the stakes in life are higher as an adult, right? Like, you know, I guess I just didn't. I appreciated it, I think, the best I could with the DeLorean at the time, where I was like, wow, I can't believe I'm doing this. This is real. I'm so excited about this. But as an adult with a family to care for and a job to worry about and all these other things, to then have made it to that day where it's like they're handing me the key to this Tesla that I've always wanted. It was a very different experience.
Yeah, and I think that's what's powerful about it. And I think honestly, that's why, I mean, you know, what's always drawn me to you is the way your enthusiasm in what you cover or just talk about comes through. You know what I mean? Where it's the same thing of like, I know how into baseball you are.
Yes.
And I respect baseball, but I'm not a baseball fan, but I will listen to you talk about baseball.
Yeah.
Like, right. When you went away and did that camp, when you went and did like the Arizona camp or whatever, I was like, I want to hear all about this. Yes. Tell me.
Yeah. I mean, well, I think that's for better and for worse, because there are definitely downsides to it. I have realized through therapy and introspection, my personality is one of like, I am not a man of many interests. I really am not. Like, I'm interested in a fairly narrow list of things. You know, you mentioned baseball and video games and cars and like Tesla, DeLorean specifically, and you know, a few and dogs, the boxers, and
you find
but
in your in.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It's like I don't have this wide range of interests, but the things that I'm interested in, I am all in, all the way down the rabbit hole. I like soak up every bit of knowledge I can about it. So that's the thing. I know a lot about baseball because I'm just invested in it, and I know a ton about video games, and I'm so lucky that that has been able to help fuel a paying career. And I know a lot about Tesla, and I know everything about DeLorean, and I know a lot about boxers. So yeah, that's just sort of it's I guess kind of an obsessive personality, I guess. Again, for better or for worse. It's hopefully mostly in a healthy way, but yeah, like I couldn't I probably wouldn't be a very entertaining at a party unless we're talking about one of the things that I'm interested in.
You'd be great at the party, like circulating every 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And people get in the car, be like, that Ryan guy was great. Yeah, do you know he has a Tesla? Well, no, yeah, of course I know. What else has he talked about? It's asking around. You talk about the dog too? Fuck, this is a guy we talk about.
Yeah. But I'll tell you, Greg, I mean, you mentioned, you said something very kind words to me there. I will say, like, creating the Tesla podcast, I look to you not only for that kind of potential financial model to make it, because
sure,
you do want it is, you're putting a lot of time and energy into it. You'd love to be able to have it generate some income and help support your family. But I also really looked. You were a very much a role model to me as far as the positivity that you bring to your content and the things that you do. I mean, the Kind of Funny best friends and the community that you've built. Like, I wanted to try and do that with the Tesla podcast. And it's because it's very easy to fall down into the trap of, well, I'm going to criticize this one. I'm going to criticize that one. I don't like this. And, we're all on Twitter probably. I mean, I know I'm on Twitter way too much right now. Like, I really want to turn it off. Like, I really want to get away from it, but it's like I can't, in a sense. But I looked at, when I was setting that up, when I was building the Tesla podcast, I thought, well, yeah, Greg has, like, he just keeps it positive and he focuses on the positive. It's a hard thing to let sort of the negative things that come at you just slide by and just stay focused on the positive. But I've tried my best to do that. And I think people respond to that too. I mean, they have with me, and I know they have with you, because, most other people, there's those fringe, there's the sort of vocal minority that just relishes in that negativity and the conflict.
They feed on it.
But yeah, I think most of us in the middle are just want to enjoy the things we enjoy, whether it's the Tesla stuff or video games, or, you've done such a great job of branching out into pop culture. Congratulations on your DC comic. That's insane.
Thank you.
I mean, that opportunity. I mean, I look at that like that. I think is very similar to me getting to interview Elon Musk. Finally, is you put yourself, through your hard work and dedication and positivity, you put yourself in that position to finally get that opportunity. It wasn't just handed to you. You did earn it, whether or not you think you did. You really did.
Thank you. Yeah, you caught me off guard.
I stopped the show. I killed the show.
Well, I mean, just, frankly, and like, because obviously it's all about honesty. I'm having a bad day. You know what I mean? Like, and it's where we started before of COVID and this whole thing and quarantine. And like, I've talked about it a lot. There's ups and downs every day where, I talk to people on the phone. They're like, how are you? I'm like, I don't know. How are you? It's the same, right? Where it's Groundhog Day, but you're maybe up or maybe down or whatever, blah, blah, blah. And like, you just hit totally a nerve, not in a bad way, obviously. I mean, in a way that I'm struggling today of just like, it's one of those with all this COVID stuff, right? Like, I think, we present all of our successes, right? And you talk about the comic and you talk about your podcast and Elon Musk. And like, today I had to write a very painful email turning something down because of all this COVID stuff. And it's one of those things of, damn it, I've been grinding to do this kind of stuff. And it's like the first time that it's really happened where it's like, I got to say no to this opportunity because of the fucking pandemic. And it's like, it's the right thing to do. And I'm cool with it. And don't get me wrong, but it's just like that, fuck, today sucks. You know what I mean? Like, bitter pill to swallow kind of thing.
I totally relate. I mean, professionally speaking, I can tell you, hopefully nobody's going to yell at me for saying this, but so at IGN, I created and run a program called Ign First, which is basically, for those that don't know, it's sort of IGN's version of a monthly magazine cover story. I worked in magazines for 10 years. I loved it when I got to do a cover story. You get to go to a development studio and talk to all the developers and see the game early. And it's this thrilling, exciting thing. And then you get to go back and present that information to your audience. And anyway, I was able to, I wanted to recreate that experience for the IGN audience and for me and for my team, right? Because like, you remember, Greg, it was mostly, you just had to wait on the publishers to bring the game to you or to have an event. And I was like, well, how can we get around that? Anyway, so that's been going for a while. And we were in April.
How long's a while?
It's actually, we're just this month is the 6-year anniversary of it. May 2014 was the first one.
What I want to tell you is I remember when you pitched this, and I
Yes.
remember when it was going through at IGN, and I remember the argument of like, it was a different time, obviously, in 2014, of magazines still were getting all these exclusives.
Right.
And it
Game
was
Informer got everything.
It was the argument of like, they're selling it because, okay, cool, they can point the number of subscribers, but more importantly, when you walk into a GameStop, it's there. And I remember you being like, we need to make them understand that IGN is bigger than that. There are more eyes on IGN than there are on a GameStop, and pushing forward and all that things. And I remember you starting it, and I remember being so jaded that I was like, this is a great idea. And Ryan's bringing in something that I love from the magazines I used to subscribe to here. But I had seen similar initiatives in my, what would have been 7.5 years there, fail so many times or peter out, or it was somebody's idea and then they left, or they did it and then they lost thing. And the fact that you not only did it, made it successful, make it something that I look forward to. I still get jazzed when I go to IGN and see what the first is. The fact that it's been going for 6 years, I can't applaud enough, man.
Well, thank you, but it's very kind of you. And it goes back. Remember that obsessive personality I was talking about? It's just like, I will just, you cannot outlast me. Like that is the one thing. Like if you want to compete with me, you're going to have to like actually better me, because you won't outlast me. Like that's the one thing I'll say for myself is I'm like a Gila monster that just grabs on and won't let go to the thing that he's interested in. But anyway, it's, Ghost of Tsushima, Greg, was my IGN first for April. Our guys, Max and Jonathan, were all set to get on a plane and go to Seattle in mid-March.
Yeah.
And that was and they have not, as you know, up until in about an hour from now, they have not shown that game.
Yeah.
We were going to have the exclusive. We were going to be the first people showing off this stunning looking new IP from now PlayStation Studios. And I was just like, I remember when I locked that deal, I was just, that was one of the rare ones where I was just like, yes.
Yeah.
You just feel really like it's a huge score, huge get for the company. And then, it was a really difficult conversation with PlayStation PR that, of course, I couldn't argue with.
Of course.
Especially, again, if rewind to mid-March, Seattle in particular is really in a difficult place. Yeah. They were one of the original hotspots of this horrible pandemic. And so it's like, I'm on the phone with PlayStation PR, and they're saying, I'm sorry, we've got to cancel this. And I said, I can't argue with you at all, but I'm so bummed. It's such a tough thing. And again, that we're talking about video games,
of course.
And it's it's not. But yeah, so I can relate to that. I mean, more personally, I can very much relate to what you're talking about, because I'll tell you, Greg, the first week of this, you might assume like, oh, okay, well, the first week you just feel like, hey, cool, working from home, all good. But I'll tell you, the first week of this, I was angry. Just angry at the world, not at anyone or anything. I was just angry at the situation of like, this is, and I've kind of adjusted and found a bit of a rhythm now, but yeah, I've found I've been battling my long simmering like anxiety issues.
Yeah,
they've really bubbled back up, and it's to the point where it's like, gosh, do I call the therapist back up and start that back up? Because it's really, it is hard. It's just the when that normalcy of life gets taken away from you, and you have to worry about, because for me, Greg, I've had asthma since I was a little kid. So particularly in the beginning of this, we've since unfortunately learned that COVID-19 attacks lots of your organs, not just your lungs. But particularly in the beginning, it was just like, hey, if you're over 60 or you have lung disease or heart disease or asthma, like, watch out. And so I've been particularly terrified of this, because it's like I want to watch my kid grow up. Like, I don't want to get this thing and then that's it, and then I'm done. Totally. So so I can relate to the anxiety and to the anger and to the hard days, because we're all feeling it.
That's been the crazy thing about it is I've always I mean, I know what it is to be anxious, right? But I've never had anxiety. And yeah, but like week 3, I was like, the walls are closing in. What the fuck? You know what I mean? Like I was, and you know, it's been another humbling experience. I always talk about it of leaving IGN and starting Kind of Funny. I remember that first 2-week period of Kind of Funny and really having to, for the first time, say, no, I can't. You know what I mean? Because at IGN, it was anybody hit us up. They want to come show a game. Sure. We'll book you. I'll get you. I'll figure it out. We'll get you in this thing. You want to be on up? You know, I'm booking out 7 months, right? And then when we switched the gears and I was like, no, I can't. And I had to start accepting and make it hard to swallow that like I have to turn things down. Yeah. And so for me now, what it's been during this quarantine is I just use the line all the time. Like I get people shooting their shot and wanting to be on Games Daily or wanting to have me on a podcast because it makes sense of, well, we're home all the time. We're Skyping all the shows. Why not Skype in more people? When in reality, it's like we're home all the time, which makes it way more stressful and it's way more things and there's moving parts. And on top of that, I want to make sure Imran is still employed in some respect and Fran is, and like, you know what I mean? Juggling all these different things on why I can't bring in everybody. So like, I've just gotten used to sending this email back to people like, I'd love to do that. I'm sorry, I can't. I'm overwhelmed. And it's not a word I've ever said before. I've never said and meant like the way I mean it of like, I can feel the tension up here today, right? And I know what it feels like when it's up here, but I feel it all right here. And it's like, no, I am overwhelmed. I need to not do this. I need to not answer this email. I need to close my computer and walk away right now.
Yeah. It's and it's the uncertainty only makes it worse, right? We don't know when or how. We all sit here and pray for a vaccine, and so it's just like any bit of good news would be really great right about now.
Right. How are you handling it as a father? How are you dealing with it with your kid?
You know, it's at first it was again sort of part of that anger, like, oh, my kid is missing part of our education. I mean, they're doing Zoom stuff and what have you, and their home assignments that my wife and I work with her on. But it's like, and then, you know, I talked to another friend of mine and he was like, well, she's what, in 3rd grade? It's 3rd grade. And it's like, you know, I had to think about it. Like, you know what? You're kind of right. I think in the end, she's going to be okay. If she were a high school junior, missing a prom or a senior grad, like I really feel bad for grads right now.
Totally.
I mean, that's totally. It's a more or less a once in a lifetime special moment. You get to walk and you get your diploma and you got the cap and gown and it's like, yeah, that was I have fond memories of getting to do that. And it's so, yeah. And, you know, you're trying to, well, how and if you're going to go to college and how's that going to work? And is it going to set you back for your sort of secondary education and your job process? So like, I try to keep that sort of perspective of, okay, she's 8 years old. This isn't the end of the world. It's unfortunate, but
is she losing her mind though, being like locked up?
Thankfully not, because just the way my kid is wired, she's actually totally fine. She loves to listen to audiobooks. She would do that all day if you let her. And so she'll just sit there. She'll just sit with an audiobook or do some craft project. So thankfully she's not like, she actually is pretty well. She was already previously wired to be kind of good at occupying herself. So in that way, it's been not too bad for us, at least. So
taking a hard left turn and getting back to where we were, because I had 2 questions I want to go with.
Yeah.
You talked about being on the outside, pressed up against the glass, like looking in on the world of Tesla, right? And then you get your key. You are on the inside now. Are you on the inside in the same way you and I are on the inside of gaming? Like, are you on press releases from Tesla? Do you know the PR people there? Like, you know Xbox or I know PlayStation?
Yeah, not quite in the same way, but I do have some access now, and I have I know for a fact there are a number of internal people at Tesla that listen to the podcast and enjoy it, and other people in the community and other content creators know me. So yeah, I am kind of more plugged in, and that actually really has nothing to do with owning the car. It's just more of the longevity of
exactly the show
of kind of having done it. But yeah, I am fortunate that I can point to, like, if I have a request for, like, I was able, not only the Elon interview, but then I followed that up last fall. I was in LA for actually for a video game event, for a Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order event. You were there.
I remember that one.
And that same week, it turned out there was, so I said, well, I'm going to be in LA. I would really love to interview your chief designer, this guy named Franz von Holzhausen. He designs all the cars. So when you see a Model S, a Model X, a Model 3, that he designed the cars. I was like, I would love to talk to this guy. And he doesn't really do a lot of interviews. He works out of a design studio in Los Angeles, which is adjacent to SpaceX. So they're literally next door to each other, whereas Tesla corporate headquarters is here in the Bay Area and the factory is here in the Bay Area, but the design studio's down in LA. And yeah, so I was able to kind of, they knew me enough and knew I was not some like clickbait happy maniac who was just, they knew kind of they knew my they knew my style and what I was all about. So I was able to get that. So that was like that stuff feels really good.
How long did you work to get the Elon Musk interview? Like, when did that conversation start?
What's funny is, well, I'll just tell you first that someone pointed out to me around the time that the Elon, or right after, I guess, the Elon interview happened, where apparently on episode 1, I said, oh, it'd be really, like, when I was talking about why I was doing this and kind of, I said, apparently I said, oh, it'd be really cool to have Elon Musk on here someday. So that was kind of cool that happened. But yeah, as with a lot of things with Elon, it started with Twitter. I'd been doing the podcast for a while, and this was around the time that I was finally, like, I'd ordered my car but hadn't had it delivered yet because they hadn't built it, and I had just, you gotta, like you said, you gotta shoot your shot. And I had tried tweeting him a couple times, like, oh, I'd love to have you on my podcast sometime, and I'm right here in the Bay Area. I can come down to the factory or whatever. And finally, one of the times I caught his attention. I don't know how, like, you've got a million. I don't even know, like, how you manage your timeline, Greg, but let alone Elon Musk with 30 million followers. I don't know. I would, like, does it just scroll so fast the human eye can't even perceive it?
I can't even imagine what it must look like
on the notifications. But he replied and said, I still have the tweet bookmarked because of course I saved it. And he said something like, yeah, when you get your car, maybe we can meet up and you can tell me, we can talk about what you like and what you don't like. And then it was a little after, like, around at some point, Tesla themselves, like the corporate account at Tesla, followed me. And then they messaged me at one point and said, hey, we wanted to, let's follow up on this.
Oh my God.
And it took about 6 months probably, because I mean, Elon Musk has like 17 jobs. So trying to get him to sit down is not an easy task. But yeah, eventually it finally happened just almost exactly a year ago. It was at the end of May last year. And it was, that felt really good. I don't get nervous anymore for interviews, Greg, because I've just practiced enough at it where I'm generally pretty comfortable. But with Elon, I was nervous just because I knew he didn't know me, and it was a wild card, right? Like, if he had just come out of a bad meeting where he got some bad news, he might not be super interested in sitting and talking to some schmuck about like, I'm not the New York Times, Greg. I recognize and understand that.
Yeah.
I'm just a guy, like I said, on my little corner of the beach on the internet, my little grain of sand. But he was exceptionally gracious with his time. I had asked for an hour because, as you know, with IGN Unfiltered, that's the long form interview is my specialty. That's what I enjoy doing. I think you need that time to really get into a good conversation with somebody like we're doing now. And they had said, well, it's 30 minutes, but if he feels like he'll keep going, then he might give you a few more. And we sat for an hour, and he didn't stop it. PR didn't stop it. And so, yeah, the fact that I got an hour, it really meant a lot I mean, clearly, because I'd been told if he's not, like, that he would kind of wrap it up himself if he was done, right? But we just kept going. So that was that felt really good. That was just really gratifying, that not only had I gotten the opportunity, but I felt like I just put it all on the table. And I didn't go out of it going, oh, I wish I'd asked this, or oh, why did I say that? Like I felt really good about it. And it's just like, because that might be a one-shot deal. I might never get that chance again.
This might be a dumb question that goes nowhere, but stick with me.
All right.
Can you compare the car ride to the interview versus the car ride leaving the interview? For me, I always have this thing when I have something big that I'm always like, you thought about it. It's been weeks of planning. You're all set to execute. And there is that moment usually in the shower or in the drive, if that's what it is, of I'm going to blink and this is going to be over. And like, did I nail it kind of thing?
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great question, because so on the way there, I brought one of IGN's video producers, CJ Gibson, who now works at Bungie. Yeah, but so I brought him with me as just to handle the audio, because it was just like, I don't do video. It was just the audio, but like I had my fancy Zoom recorder and the mics, and he was very kind to volunteer his time so that I could just focus on the interview and not have to worry about the levels and so we're in the car. We're on the way down. It's about a 45-minute ride down to Tesla's Palo Alto headquarters in Silicon Valley. And really the whole time, I actually wasn't worried about the question. Like, I knew I was prepared. I was over prepared. I had a million questions. I knew generally how I wanted the conversation to go. I was prepared that way. It was honestly more just, I wasn't going to believe that it happened until he was in the room, because I was even warned, he might be late, because we were scheduled for, I believe it was like a 6:30 p.m. interview, the end of his day, and they're like, well, okay, well, just to warn you, he might be late. If something comes up, we might have to cancel or reschedule. So we got there super early, of course. So we're just kind of on ice in the lobby. And sure enough, word comes down. He's running behind. It's going to be a little bit. Eventually, they take us up to a conference room where the interview is going to happen. He ended up being, I think it was a little over an hour and a half late to it, because he had, other stuff had backed up.
Sure.
But that actually,
did you just keep doing PR? You're like, I'll wait as long as I need to wait.
Of course. But honestly, you know what? I was talking about how I was nervous. Him being late and me getting to just sit on ice in the conference room, that actually helped me, because by the time he got in, my nerves had settled. So I was no longer nervous when he did finally walk in at 8:00 at night. This is the kind of day this guy has.
Yeah.
So yeah, that actually helped. And then we got going, and the interview was great. And then when we walked out for the second part of your question, what's funny is, and I'll bet you can probably relate to this. My thinking was, I'm not sure if that was good, because I felt like I wasn't going to know if it was any good until the public could react to it.
Sure.
It was just like, well, I asked the questions I wanted to ask. I got an hour, but I don't know if that was good or not until the public can decide. And CJ was like, yeah, that was great, man. And I guess I just kind of had maybe a little bit of kind of a little mix of self-doubt, but also just kind of being in the shock, like just the shell shock of it.
Sure.
And yeah, once I finally was able to, and I say this very humbly, but I allowed myself to take a victory lap when it actually posted online for the public, and feedback started to come in, and I was like, okay, I did do a good job on this, and then I was able to relax and feel good about it.
Is that your most successful episode?
Oh yeah, by a factor of 10.
Oh wow. Okay.
I mean,
that was 200, right?
Yeah, I mean, It's episode 200. If you've never listened to my podcast, or it's episode 200 if you want to hear my Elon Musk interview from a year ago. But yeah, he's I mean, that's the thing. He's people want to know what he has to say because he
Yeah.
is definitely unpredictable in what he and yeah, we had a great conversation. They did not. He was not pre-briefed on like he just. I could ask anything I wanted, and we just had a great chat. So yeah, that was that. I definitely felt like like I had like man, I can't believe like how did I get here? Like I started broadcasting like we're real broadcasters.
Yeah,
But
I know, right?
I started doing this podcast for myself and just putting it out there and now 200 episodes later here I am sitting with the head of the company in a 1 hour interview.
Yeah, making this
It's wild, man. It's wild.
So then my next question following up on this thread is with Elon Musk, how are you dealing with kind of not you are so associated with the Tesla brand. And I feel like I saw you tweet the other day and I was trying to pull it up, but I can't get it to it. But you're basically like, hey guys, remember, you can like Tesla and not agree with everything Elon Musk says. Obviously, Elon Musk, a polarizing figure, and continues to say things on Twitter and do things and have the city of Alameda or whatever looking into what he's doing. How do you wrestle with that of wanting to talk about the car? Like you said, be positive and, put that out there, but also then having to deal with the figurehead of the company saying not crazy things. Well, it depends on saying things that are polarizing.
Yeah. I mean, and the way I look at it is you got to take the good with the bad. Like this guy does a lot of amazing, incredible stuff and a lot of, in my opinion, very admirable things. That the work, a lot of the work is admirable. Again, I wouldn't be doing a podcast about cars, about one car company otherwise. But he's a human being, and I'm not going to agree with everything he says and does. And I, even though I work in video games, I do have a journalism degree. It's somewhere. It's down on a shelf over there somewhere.
It's shoved underneath those 360 games.
It actually is, and so that I am just wired to like I actually I say this. I'm very upfront about this on my podcast. That my line is, I admit I am a Tesla fanboy. I am going to most of the time. I'm going to give Tesla the benefit of the doubt because, in my opinion, covering them for so long now, most of the time Tesla does the thing that's in the best interests of the customer rather than their own bottom line or lobbyists or whatever other crazy thing you want to bring up. But I said I have said that I don't agree with Elon before, and that I've said I'm disappointed in his behavior before. The whole caver dive rescue thing where he said a really not great. I mean, granted, that other guy said horrible things too. But it was ugly all around. And I said, hey, I was disappointed in his behavior with that. But it's the podcast is the Tesla podcast. It's not the Elon Musk podcast. Now he's very much, those two things are intertwined. And I think I probably mention Elon in some way, shape, or form every episode because of that. But he is a human, and I will disagree when I feel the need to. And I did that. I've done that. I did that on just recently with some of the comments he's been making about the coronavirus situation that I just personally haven't agreed with at all, and the way that he's handled that. So yeah, it is a weird line, but I'm a fanboy, but I'm not a
You're a blind fanboy. You're a fanboy.
I'm not a cultist, Greg. I guess is the way. And I say, and I'm kind of like, I'm sort of serious about that. Like there are people who will just back, and we see this. Our whole culture is polarized this way, where there are politicians, there are business leaders, there are celebrities, entertainment icons, where it's just anything they say is the greatest thing ever. They're always right, and if you criticize that and say, then you're the worst and you're horrible. And I can't do that. Like I love Tesla and what they're up to, and I love the cars, and I do respect and admire Elon for what he's accomplished in his endeavors, particularly with Tesla, but of course SpaceX as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not going to sit here and just toe the line. I'm going to disagree if I feel the need to disagree. And for the most part, with this recent stuff, my audience response has been mostly great. Like a few kind of responses I wish that were pretty not nice, but for the most part, it's people that, because when I do disagree, I try to do it in a measured way of like, I try to see the other side and consider other perspectives. But at the end of the day, it's my podcast and my opinion. So
Yeah.
I try to be respectful in expressing that, but and I think most of the time the audience, like I've built up enough, I think, trust with my audience at this point where, they're not going to just cast me aside and kick me to the curb for disagreeing if they disagree with me once over one thing,
And that's the thing too, to your point of like the audience you're building, right? Where if you're trying to emulate Kind of Funny and you're trying to build the audience of the correct, hey, you're on board for the right reasons, that to your point, like you can be a fanboy of the brand, you can criticize the man, right? Who like obviously is so intrinsically tied to it, but also does not represent everyone, doesn't, talk about every factory employee.
I mean, I've been dealing with that in my professional career forever with Xbox. I'm the Xbox guy at IGN, and I get it's every day I'll get either, oh, you hate Xbox, you're paid off by Sony because I dared criticize something that the great and mighty Xbox dare do. But then but then the next day I'll get, oh, you're an Xbox fanboy, you're a paid shill, are you on Microsoft's payroll? So it's like, well, that tells me I'm probably doing my job pretty well if I've got some people that think that I'm anti-Xbox and some people that think I'm slavishly pro Xbox. That probably means I'm about in the zone that I want to be in. Because Greg, I mean, better than anybody else, because for on the Xbox side with IGN, it's like I'm still living and hopefully coming out of, with this new generation, coming out of the sort of the dark period of Xbox, the same way that you kept beyond going during what was the dark period for those early PlayStation 3 years.
We started during the dark period.
Where it's like where the company was just doing a lot of things that were not, in hindsight, not the best, like the right consumer choices, moves, and just making bad choices for the brand and for the business and for their customers. And Xbox is, that it's been that for the majority of my IGN tenure. I mean, when I started doing the KOXM podcast at Official Xbox Magazine, that was the high time.
360 killing it.
The 360 era. And then when I came to IGN, it was right at the tail end of that. And then it was right into the Xbox One era, which was a disaster from the word go, that they've been digging themselves out of ever since. So it's like they're not people, despite what the Supreme Court, corporations are not people. And it's like, I don't understand. Like, for me, Greg, and I know you feel the same way, you can't, if you do nothing but praise a company that you love, like you love their stuff, like you love PlayStation, you love Xbox, that's great. But if you never criticize them, then your praise starts to ring hollow and become meaningless.
Totally.
If you're never going to dare question the word of the almighty plastic box, like, then what good is your opinion at that point? You need that balance. So then your praise carries meaning when you criticize, and your criticism carries meaning when you praise.
I want to get to all this video game stuff. Let me do some housekeeping real quick. Of course, ladies and gentlemen, this is We Have Cool Friends, our irregularly scheduled programs. We're moving back to Mondays. We've been doing 2 Thursdays for you, but we'll be back on Monday with Nick Scarpino interviewing Matt Scarpino. So there you go. There's a We Have Cool Friend. Of course, you can subscribe to us on all sorts of podcast services, youtube.com/kindafunny and roosterteeth.com. You can also, though, go to patreon.com/kindafunny, where you can submit your questions and be like our cool Patreon producers: Mohammed, aka Momo, Cameron Reagan, Steve Powers, Lee Polero, Julian the gluten-free gamer, Kieran O'Donnell, Drew Gardenier Frutis, and Al the Predator tribesman. Today we're brought to you by Honey, and hey Kevin, why don't I tell you about them right now? Online shopping is supposed to be easy, so why is it so hard to find the coupon codes that actually work? Thanks to Honey, it doesn't have to be. Honey is the free online shopping tool that saves you money online. Honey automatically finds the best promo codes and applies them to your cart, which makes online shopping finally feel as easy as it's supposed to be. Ladies and gentlemen, as you know, a long time ago, Honey sponsored us, and Tim said, Greg, you have to start using this. And I said, what is it? He said, go here. I clicked there. It added a widget to my Google Chrome that I see right up there. And now when I check out online, it tells me the best codes. I'll have you know that, of course, the man, Becky Lynch from WWE, announced she could no longer be the champion and because she's going to go off and be a mother. They made a shirt that now says The Mom. I ordered it on WWE Shop the other day. You know what happened when I checked out? Honey popped up and was like, hold on a second. Here's a code that'll actually get you free shipping. Thank you, Honey. You saved me money on my Becky Lynch t-shirt, and I'm very appreciative of that. It's super, super easy. When you check out, this little box drops down. You click apply coupons. You wait a few seconds, and then bam, there you go. It's free, so if you're not doing it, you're passing up free money. And as I've talked about before, as you use Honey and you're logged in, you actually start to save these Honey coins that you can then redeem, as I did for an Amazon gift card when you just use it. And just, again, it's just free money. Not using Honey is literally passing up free money. It's free to use and installs in just 2 clicks. Get Honey for free at joinhoney.com/morning. That's joinhoney.com/morning.
I actually need, is that Honey spelled the regular way or like a goofy Silicon Valley way?
No, just Honey like in the Honey.
H-O-N-E. Okay. Yeah. I might have to, I've never heard of that. So I might actually, I need to look into that because I'll do the coupon code search sometimes. And then you end up on a website where you click to reveal a thing and then it's just nothing that's useful. So, all right, I'm going to keep that in mind.
Get in and do it. Yeah, it's super easy. I'm just noticing that on this desktop, because I use my Mac, of course, I'm not logged in. So I'm logging in to tell you how many Honey coins I currently have. But like I said, I just redeemed them. Hold on. So it's logging in. It's doing its thing. Oh, I'll see when you're on patreon.com/kindoffunnygames, you can get the show, or patreon.com/kindoffunny, you get the show ad free. So you wouldn't have to hear about Honey if you didn't want to. I have 26 Honey coins right now. So there you go. You know what? Ooh, if I invite friends, I can get up to 100,000 gold. McCaffrey, you're getting an invite. But I'll do it later.
Send it over. I do want to do that. Yes.
Ryan, you're now in the friend zone where the Kind of Funny best friends can write in and ask you questions.
We're never going to make out?
Come on now. Don't take the friend zone so literally. There's always a chance we're going to make out, Ryan. Right. But there's 2 questions in here that I wanted to get to anyway, so we're going to bring him in. Adam Schwartz writes into patreon.com/kindoffunny and says, what made you want to be the Xbox guy? Why not PlayStation or Nintendo? Love the work you do, Ryan. Been listening to Unlocked for years and love it. Keep it up. How did you become the Xbox guy?
Yeah, it's kind of a matter of opportunity and fate, I guess, in that it's interesting because I've told this story before, but the quick version of it is, so growing up, so I had a Nintendo. The NES I was born in 1980, so the NES was my first console. That was my jam. Then we move into the 16-bit era. My buddy Robert and I decide, you know what? We like that TurboGrafx 16. Let's get that. So we actually buck the trend and we go that way. But eventually, I know, right?
Wasting your money.
Hey, Amazon, Konami, where's Amazon? Send me my TurboGrafx 16 mini. You sent out the review units. They exist. They're out in Japan. I want mine. I want to relive some East Book 1 and 2 and some Bonk's Adventure. Anyway.
Oh, Bonk. There you go. That's the one you're looking for. Yeah.
So then we bounce to that. And then, anyway, find my way after the 16-bit era. A game called Doom comes out. Of course, for PC, 1993, December 1993. Friend of mine shows it to me on his family computer. And you got to remember, Greg, for the younger listeners, at this point in time, a computer in the house is not a guaranteed thing at all. Like it was the mid 90s when everybody's household started to get a computer into it. They were expensive. So we didn't have a computer yet in my house, my family. We were it was straight middle class and it just didn't have a computer yet. Played Doom. I was like, and that was like, oh my goodness, this is the best thing ever. Eventually, I convinced my parents to get us a computer. I think like the following Christmas. I basically like leave the consoles behind, and I'm all in on PC gaming. There's so many great, all the LucasArts point and click adventure games. Sure. I was just doing a 25th anniversary live stream with Tim Schafer earlier this week for Full Throttle, which is my favorite game of his. Yeah. Full Throttle's awesome. 1995. So all the LucasArts adventure games, Doom and all the Doom clones, and then Quake and all those great first person shooters and great RPG like Deus Ex, Diablo. I'm just all in on PC gaming, and believe me, stay on this walk with me. I'm
not going anywhere.
Yeah. So I'm PC gaming, and I get to college, and I was lucky, Greg. I knew early on. In high school, I knew, like, I was reading EGM, I was reading PC Gamer, and I was like, I want to do this. I want to write in one of these magazines. And thankfully, writing, English were always my strongest subjects in school, and the ones I enjoyed the most. And so I went to school for journalism at Arizona State. And they actually, I know they have a reputation as a party school, but the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism is actually a phenomenal program.
Because Walter Cronkite loved to party.
Just, you know it. And that's
Keg stand record.
Greg, pass the beer. No one will understand that impression because
we're very old. Old people will understand that impression.
Anyway, so I have this singular focus. Again, we get back to my obsessive personality. I am locked in. Like, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to just crush it here in journalism school. I'm going to get the best grades I can. I'm going to get out of here. And then I am going to just send. And this is what I did. When I graduated, I sent a resume and a letter to every video game magazine and website I can think of, which back then, this is now 2002 is when I graduated. There's a lot of magazines and plenty of websites. The shift hadn't totally happened where it went totally online by any means at that point. And I had a couple of bites. One was at Computer Games Magazine, which was located in Vermont, believe it or not. Didn't end up I had a little exchange with them, didn't end up getting anywhere, obviously. But then Official Xbox Magazine writes me back and says, okay, we'd like to bring you out for an interview. I'm like, oh, wow, amazing. I better buy an Xbox. So, confession, I didn't have one at that point. Yeah. So I went and bought, first thing I went and bought was a copy of Official Xbox Magazine from the newsstand, the grocery store. I'm studying this thing like it's the Bible. Yeah. And then I buy an Xbox with Halo, and I start playing it and start getting into it. And it just kind of worked. Like, they liked me enough, and my gaming, obviously I've been gaming my whole life, and they hired me. Thank God. Mike Salmon and Matt Firm, I will be forever grateful to them for giving a 22-year-old kid fresh out of journalism school a chance.
Yeah.
And it honestly, it really worked out where the Xbox became kind of it had a lot of the same games that, like, the same type of games that PC gaming had.
Sure.
There was, remember, Greg, the PlayStation 2 was not a first-person shooter machine.
No, God, that's why Time Splitters. If you're a PS2 fan, you're like, oh, Time Splitters was so revolutionary.
But that was it. Like, Time Splitters was kind of the beginning and the end of first-person shooters on. And I know, yes, PlayStation fans, I know there were others, but by and large, like,
Red Faction, ring a bell,
But yeah, the Xbox got a lot of PC ports. A lot of first-person shooters came over. Of course, Halo was at the top of the pile there, but you had all these great ports of first-person shooters and other. And you had the Xbox had Western RPGs, the CRPGs, computer RPGs. It had Morrowind, Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind. It had Fable. It had, it just kind of worked out that the Xbox's library was very PC centric, and it just matched up with the gaming tastes that I already had. And so, yeah, I of course was neck deep in Xbox for 10 years, working at official Xbox magazine. So that was my expertise, but also my passion was Xbox and the brand and the kind of games that were on the Xbox. And so when it came time for me to move on, and I interviewed at IGN, it was for the role of the Xbox editor back when we had the specific channels. And yeah, so I've been an Xbox guy just ever since the beginning, since Halo, since I bought it before the job interview and started playing Halo, and it's been great. Like I still love the brand. I mean, I adore PlayStation and Nintendo as well. But I've just, I'm in the Xbox ecosystem. I love Xbox Live, and I've got a million people on my friends list there, and all the memories from the Halo 2 days and what have you. And now it's I think the lines are not as stark anymore, Greg.
Yeah,
where
for sure.
I mean, it's really okay. Certainly at the beginning of the generation, the PS4 was more powerful and you had games running in better resolutions or running a little better. But now we're on the PS4 Pro, Xbox One X, and heading into PS5 and Series X. And these things, they are PCs. They're PCs now.
Totally.
Just custom PCs. Because even the most ardent PlayStation fan is like, no, it's my PlayStation. Well, yeah, but like the PS2 was custom Sony hard, PS1, PS2, PS3 with Cell, yeah. But then with the PS4, they went to an x86 based architecture, which is PC architecture, just like Microsoft has always done with the Xbox. And now they're two sides of the same coin.
Yeah.
And Sony's doing some really cool stuff with 3D audio and like apparently a really insane SSD throughput system, and Microsoft's just throwing down some insane raw power with the GPU and the CPU. But yeah, they're all PCs now, but I still root for Xbox because I like the ecosystem, and I just want to see them I want to see both of them on top of their games instead of just the PlayStation continually just hawking loogies down onto Microsoft from the top of from their penthouse, just like, let's see if we can get him right. Oh, got him again. Yes, they're covered in spit again because they screwed up. It's like, no more screw ups. And Phil Spencer's been doing a great job.
Dude, he's been killing it. And that's my thing.
Killing it.
It's so funny. Like, I think obviously the Kind of Funny best friends are so familiar with my story. It's not even worth recapping. But like the parallels in our thing of knowing what we want to do, going to journalism school for it, and then coming out and being lucky enough to finally get one of your letters answered, and you go and work and you do that. And like you talked about it earlier of being the Xbox guy, and that your praise doesn't mean something without criticism, right? And that's why I don't care what people call me on the internet or whatever, but when it is that, oh, he's a Sony fanboy, I'm always like, I'm more of a PlayStation beat reporter. Like, you know what I mean? Like how the guy who covers the Diamondbacks knows a lot about the Diamondbacks. So you wouldn't say he's a Diamondback fanboy though. It's that thing of like, I've just been doing it for 13 years covering one brand. And so, yeah, I'm in that ecosystem, and that's why I'm there. And yeah, I know a lot about it, and I have a lot of friends, and I'll make a lot of jokes and talk about Patapon, but when they fuck up, I'll talk about fucking up. And what I've said over and over again on the shows, I would say in the last 2 years, is that if you really wanted to strip it back, I'm probably I call myself an Xbox fanboy because I want them to do well. I think they've made so many great decisions. Game Pass is amazing. xCloud is amazing. Phil Spencer and that team he's assembled are saying the right things and being transparent. Aaron Greenberg's been a friend of Kind of Funny since before we were Kind of Funny. It's like, I want them, like you're talking about, to have a success. I want in June when they do their here's what the box is, and then in July when they do the here's what the games are, I want them to come out and be like, you guys said we didn't have exclusives. Here's our first party lineup. Like, here's what everybody's working on. And not all of them are coming out day one or anything, but you see how this is going. Here's what, Drew Murray's doing down south in LA. Like, hell yeah, let's fucking go. Yes. Yeah, exactly. I mean, the fanboyism is always going to be there in the community, unfortunately. But yeah, if Microsoft can, I feel like they have a lot riding on that July first party showcase. Like that is their chance to finally show, like, look, we've been working on this first party situation for a while. Here's what we're doing. Here's Halo, and we're really going to show it to you. Hopefully,
dude, I want to be blown away by Halo so bad. I cannot tell you, because you talk about criticism. I did, when the embargo lifted on Halo 5, I did an hour of Podcast Unlocked tearing that game's campaign a new one because it was horrible, and it hurt me as a Halo fan. Like, it was a bad Halo campaign, and so I so badly want Infinite to be great, and then you've got Forza Motorsport 8, which is like pretty much guaranteed to be good. I mean, it's the track record is track record.
I was gonna let it slide. I wasn't sure if you're doing it on purpose.
But that's unfortunately with Forza, it's like it's this weird. It's this strange problem that Forza has, is it's so consistently good that no one gets excited about it.
Exactly.
It's just like, yeah, that's going to be good.
It's like Gran Turismo, right? Where it's like, okay, cool, yeah. And it's also like, if you like that game, you like that game, and if you don't like that game, you don't like that game.
I mean, at least Gran Turismo has it's like Halley's Comet. It only turns up every 8 years or something. Like Forza's on more of a cadence, but
that's true. That's fair.
I want to see Playground's second team, the Fable reboot. Like even a teaser would just fire everybody up. You talked about the initiative. Is it Perfect Dark? Is it something new? I mean, whatever Obsidian's Pillars of Eternity team is doing, because we know that there's the small team doing Grounded, and there's the Two Worlds team, or excuse me, Two Worlds, the Outer Worlds team. That's coming off of that game, so they're not going to be announcing anything yet because that was only 6 months ago. But the Pillars of Eternity team's got something. You've got whatever. I mean, In Exile's finishing up Wasteland. You've got more. We'll probably see more Everwild from Rare, which I thought looked really cool. Hellblade 2 from Ninja Theory. I mean, that was
Ninja Theory. What a great pick! What a great pickup for them.
And what a brilliant move it was to unveil the Series X with Hellblade 2, because not only was it graphically stunning, but it's exactly the kind of game that Xbox has been missing, that Sony has in abundance, right? That dramatic, narrative-driven, third-person, single-player action-adventure games. Like, here, look, we've got one, and it's amazing. Look, here it is, right alongside our console.
It's from a team you already know does great stuff, and in a game everybody already loved. So yeah,
I mean, I think a lot of people don't realize that Ninja Theory is not a one-hit wonder. I mean, they made Enslaved, DMC, like they've done some great stuff. So, but yeah, this July thing is Microsoft's chance to finally say, look, we've got great first-party stuff too. So, I really want it to go well. This last one, the third-party thing from last week, didn't go super great. So it's like, I hope that they learn their messaging lessons from that. And man, I hope this July one's going to knock it out of the park.
Yeah, I mean, I want them to come out so strong. And you know what I mean? Because I think they've put in the work. I think they've put together this team, this stable of things, that everything they talk about, and I think it's such lip service usually when we're putting gamers first. I remember when EA was talking about all that crap back in the day, right? Like, when Phil says it and Xbox says it, I believe it. And I see them actually paying off on that. And I see them making Game Pass better. I see them, cutting deals on for indies to get them to bring their stuff to Game Pass and actually help them and fund them and like do exclusives. It's like, fuck yeah. Like, I hope they come out and kill it.
Yeah. I mean, it might not be realistic to expect everybody to jump ship from Sony and switch to Xbox. Everybody's very tied in with their digital ecosystems, but hopefully Microsoft has a good enough first party showing. And we've already seen the power of the console itself. It's on paper and a little bit in practice so far too, where hopefully people will, at the very least, they'll decide, well, maybe PlayStation's going to be my main console, but man, I'm also going to pick up an Xbox because you said Game Pass.
Yeah.
Every first party game goes into Game Pass. So for your $10 subscription, you get all those games we just talked about. Halo, Forza, Fable, Psychonauts 2, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Like, that's insane.
I think the hope I have for Xbox, right, in this whole thing is that Halo Infinite is fucking awesome. And that it does and then if you're, and that is the thing that justifies you wanting to get an Xbox Series X, right? And I know there's the argument, well, you could just play an Xbox One, but well, sure. But like, if everybody's playing it and it's awesome and you're seeing how great it looks and you're super into it and everybody wants to play multiplayer, there's the hope that it does that. It convinces you to buy the Series X. You buy the Series X, then it comes with a free month of Game Pass. You get into Game Pass, you're like, oh my God, there's so many other stuff. And the ball is rolling to make it that, oh wait, this is a great system. Why am I not using it?
Yeah. I mean, I think Microsoft's done a tremendous job. I mean, this is all ground that your audience, I don't want to retread everything, but
yeah, but when I say it, they don't believe it. They don't believe you.
Well, just that I think Microsoft's done a great job so far with telling me why I should upgrade to a Series X over the One X that's sitting right over there. Yeah. And you got hardware ray tracing. I mean, I think we haven't really seen that. Microsoft showed a cool Minecraft tech demo, but when we start seeing, like, to your exact point, the side-by-sides of Halo Infinite running on Series X versus with the hardware ray tracing running on, and then next to it running on a One X without it, I think that the ray tracing is going to be a big motivator for upgrades. And then, of course, the super fast hard drives. I mean, if that's such a quality of life thing, that I just think that's going to be a big selling point. And then, of course, 4K 60 for just about everything too, which the One X is not really, for the most part, quite able to get that high. Just same thing with the PS4 Pro. So, I mean, I think those three things, I think Microsoft has done a really good job out of the gate of saying, like, for me, those three reasons are enough to spend $500 or whatever on the new console.
Yeah. I can't wait. It's going to be such a fun summer seeing what everybody has up their sleeve.
Agreed.
One final question from the friend zone comes from Clay Stone, who wrote into patreon.com/kindoffunny and says, "Hi, Ryan. As a proud owner of a DeLorean, I love maintaining my DMC-12 and taking it out for weekend drives when I'm not slowly transforming it into the Back to the Future time machine of my childhood dreams. But with an 11-month-old and economic concerns due to the pandemic, the day may soon come when I have to sell it. What made you part ways with your DeLorean? Was it easy to let it go? And what do you miss most about it? Thanks, Clay Stone."
Oh, it's my circumstances, Clay, were very similar to that, actually. As Greg knows, but it's odd, again, the parallels between Greg's life and mine. So I was married young and divorced young. And I'd met my now wife, who's just
your new wife of like,
sounds, that doesn't sound good. But we just had our daughter, and with some help from her family, we'd just been so fortunate to actually buy a house in the Bay Area, which, Greg, as you know, is
the dream.
It's not a guarantee. Like, it's crazy how, for anybody that doesn't live in the Bay Area, owning a home is not. It is a privilege here. It is not like just an easy thing where anybody can. There are a lot of, the costs are out of control in this area. So we were so lucky to have that and our daughter, and so it was just this time where I came to the point where that DeLorean meant a ton to me, and it didn't mean a lot to my wife, and she never pressured me to get rid of it, to her credit. But I didn't want it to become a sticking point in our relationship, Greg, because I'd been divorced. I don't want to do it again. It's not fun to go through. And I made the decision, which was because I really thought I would own my DeLorean for life. I thought I would die with that car in my possession, like bury me in it, seriously. And my parents had said that. They were like, "We thought you would die you'd take that car to the grave," and I probably would have. But so I just decided, I thought the best decision for my family and these blessings that had been bestowed upon us was just to go ahead and say goodbye to it. It was an incredible thing to have. Like, quick aside, I have the book over there, John DeLorean's Autobiography. He talks about, in his book, which was written in the mid 80s after the company had gone under, he wrote about how he always lamented. So if you don't know, John DeLorean he created the muscle car era. The Pontiac GTO was John DeLorean. And that sort of kicked off the whole like big engines in regular kind of normal smaller cars. And eventually he leaves GM because he rose up, he became the head of Pontiac, and then he leaves to start DeLorean Motor Company. And he laments in his book, like he says, boy, it's to me, it's a shame that it's young people that should have sports cars, that should have them, because that's who should be enjoying them. It shouldn't just be older guys who can afford them. And so the 12 in DMC 12 stands for, it was the price objective of the car. It was meant to be a $12,000 car in 1981, which I don't know what that is in today money, but the car ended up being $25,000, twice that in 1981. And so it was still fairly pricey, but that always stuck with me because I bought my DeLorean when the values were pretty low. And I had that car. I owned it every day of my 20s because I bought it when I was almost 19, sold it when I was 31. So I got to have it. Like not everybody, not everybody gets to have their dream car if they're a car guy or girl. And those that do, a lot of them maybe don't get to have it till they're in their 40s, 50s, or maybe retired. I feel so lucky that I got to have it in my youth. It makes me sound old, I guess, but
back in my day when I had a DeLorean,
I always felt grateful for that. And so that made it a little easier to part with. So I had it for 12 and a half years, and I found the buyer actually was a guy around my age, maybe a little younger, but in Australia.
Oh, wow.
Because they had hit, like, in Australia, they're right-hand drive over there, but cars that are a certain age, you don't have to convert them to right-hand drive to own them there. So the DeLorean had hit the age threshold. So suddenly people in Australia started buying DeLoreans. And this guy had found me after I put it up for sale, and he made me a good offer. And I knew that, like, I could tell, we talked a lot, he was going to love it. Like, he was going to take care of it. He wasn't just going to throw it in a garage and leave it there. Or he wasn't going to, I don't know. He was going to take good care of it.
For the right reasons.
Yeah. And so it hurt. It was, and again, I want to caveat this. We're in a pandemic. There are
bigger problems.
So many more important things. But at the time, just parting with this thing that had been my dream, Greg. I had. It's funny. The DeLorean marketing slogan in 1981 was "Live the Dream," and I thought about that all. Like, I literally got to do that.
That's awesome.
Because the cool thing about the DeLorean, I owned it because I loved it. Like, I really loved the car and what it was about. And the fact that it was this, again, I talked about earlier, this iconoclastic thing that, like, a stainless steel car that would live as long as its owner. Like, no one does that because companies want you to buy new cars.
Yeah.
But I just always loved the car, and it was always so great. Whenever I would take it out, whether it was a gas station, a car show, or just driving down the road, I'd get so many waves and thumbs up, and because people either loved the car or loved Back to the Future. It was never the kind of, like, thing that I imagine exotic car owners get, where it's like the fuck this rich guy, whatever. Yeah. No, it was always, people are always so happy to see the DeLorean.
Yeah. And
that, like, I just loved sharing that, my enthusiasm for it and my joy for it. And so I just felt so lucky that I got to have it. And all that is to say, when I parted ways with it, so the car, it was a car carrier came to get it because obviously it was being shipped off to Australia. So the driver comes to get it, and it's on one of the back of those things where it's like you can put cars on the bottom row and then like drive up and have cars on the top of it. And so the guy it's an empty carrier. Maybe there was a car on the bottom, I don't know, but he's going to put the DeLorean on the top, and then so I drove it up onto the back of the carrier, and I can actually, now I'm like picturing it now, like I'm remembering it.
Are you crying when you drive it up there?
Not then,
Okay.
but it was at this big parking lot because it was obviously a big car carrier, not far walking distance from my house, and big empty parking lot. So I go down there, sign the papers with the guy. I drive the car up, so it's like I can see the sky and then the car, and then I just settle the car, and then I get out of the car, do it, whether it was, I guess, hand the key over was the last thing, and then I start to walk home, and I just started crying.
I bet.
I just was bawling because it was so, like, I was walking away from this dream, like this thing that I got to, and I'm grateful for the opportunity and the time I had. But man, it was a really hard thing to say goodbye to, and I don't regret it because it was the right move for my family. And
sure.
Do I miss the car? Yes,
of course.
I wrestle with, do I want to try and save up for another one someday? Maybe when my daughter goes off to college or something.
Yeah. You can go back to being an 18-year-old.
I mean, I don't miss the maintenance, and the DeLorean was a good car. It's not a pile of crap like some, like its reputation is kind of that it was a shitty car, and it really wasn't. The DeLorean had some things, some common bugs.
Kevin's texting me. Kevin's texting me.
Go?
We're too close. We're too close to Ghost of Tsushima. I didn't even notice.
Oh my gosh.
I wanted to hold up and be like, that's why one day, Ryan.
Oh man.
One day, Ecto 1.
Well, we talked about it. I know we talked. You were thinking about it, but anyway, to wrap the story up, maybe someday they're good cars. Maybe someday, but there is just maintenance involved in caring for what is now, Greg. Actually, next year. The DeLorean turns 40 next year.
Jesus Christ.
So there's just, all the rubber in a car, not just the tires, all the hoses, it's old stuff. So there is kind of that side to it. And one of the beauty parts of the Tesla is it has none of that.
So there 40 years from now, you'll still drive the Tesla.
Zero of it. So, I don't know, but I'm grateful for the time I had with the DeLorean, and you can put that listener in touch with me on Twitter or whatever if he wants to talk more about kind of that decision with the DeLorean, because I totally hear where he's coming from.
Ryan, next Extra Life, we have to do a podcast where we just talk for 24 hours, because I could easily do that with you.
Oh, it would be, you and I don't get to catch up very often, so that would actually be, I would be thrilled to do that. Ryan, I love you so much. Where can people keep up with you? You're the best, Greg. I love you. So Twitter, DMC, explained why earlier in the podcast, DMC_Ryan. As far as the Tesla podcast goes, maybe the easiest place to start is the Patreon, which I'm not asking you for money. I would say, listen to it first, but you can find information at patreon.com/Tesla podcast, or just search Ride the Lightning Tesla on whatever your favorite podcast service is. And then, of course, IGN.com. I'm there doing stuff pretty much every day. Perfect. Ladies and gentlemen, this is We Have Cool Friends. Remember, patreon.com/kindafunny. You can get it ad-free and submit your questions. Nick Scarpino is here on Monday with the one and only Matt Scarpino, his older brother. It will be a shit show. You don't want to miss it. Of course, you don't want to give us any bucks. YouTube.com/kindafunny, roosterteeth.com. Podcast services around the globe. Until next time, we have to react live to some Ghost of Tsushima stuff. But until then, it's been our pleasure to serve you.